Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to go ahead and start my answers for the Q&A series that I put out. I basically put out a video earlier asking, you or any subscribers basically to ask any questions that they felt like asking and wanted me to answer in a video. So I got a lot of responses, well over 300 actually, combining both the video, personal messages, and wherever you decided to try and contact me at. And so I'm just going to go ahead and start, answering them. The one thing is, I want to keep this video to 10 minutes or less. Basically, I have a timer here that's counting down the time because I don't want this to get too long. So what that means is I'm probably going to divide this up into multiple videos, as many as it takes to finish answering the questions that have been set out. Okay? Sorry for the train, but with that, let's go ahead and get started right into the actual questions, all right? There's just one thing of note, actually. And the one thing of note is that I will not be answering or trying not to answer the ones that are asking when am I going to review fragrance X. That's a completely different thing. I've got different timetables for different fragrances. All right, so let's go right into the questions. First question comes from Jules Devon, and he asks, hey, do you have any Robert Cavalli fragrances aside from just Cavalli for men? I have Cavalli Gold, wondering have you sniffed it yet? I actually have not smelled any of those fragrances yet. I've heard about them once before, but I do not have them, nor have I sniffed them before. So unfortunately, I can't give you any real comments on it. All right. Next comes from Jason T. Are there any great new fragrances? Actually, he's got two different questions. First question is, are there any great new fragrances you tried, preferably 2014-15 releases, that seem to have a certain texture, depth, richness, or performance that is reminiscent to some old school or pre-formulation era perfumes, colognes? And the second question is, what are your favorite 2014-2015 releases? Basically, what are your favorite new releases? So for the first question, there aren't really any fragrances that jump to mind that have been recently released that remind me of some old school fragrances. Just because perfumery, when I smell a fragrance at this point, I can pretty much tell kind of what era the thing is actually coming from. And by era, I mean I can ballpark it within 10 years, basically, of when the fragrance has actually been released. No, I'd probably say 5 years. 5 or 10, give or take 5 or 10 years, just because the 2000s, it's kind of a mishmash. But I wouldn't say that there's anything that really comes to mind that kind of truly reminds me of an old school fragrances. Some fragrances kind of have touches of that old schoolness, and by that I mean like their heaviness, but they have a degree of modernness to them, if you will. For the second answer, what are your favorite 2014-2015 releases? The immediate one that pops to mind is Terre d'Hermès, the Eau Fraiche version. That one, I can't wait until my fragrance embargo is done, because that one I'm going to snatch up almost immediately. The Dior Sauvage, I really like that release as well too. That's something that I'm probably going to pick up as well. Those are the two that come to mind as of right now. There's probably some more, but those two really jump to mind. Next question comes from Japep95. I'm a 20-year-old guy who is small and not very masculine. Should I wear less masculine fragrances to match my less masculine look, or should I wear more masculine fragrances to compensate for my lack of masculinity? Alright, so this is actually a pretty interesting question. I say you go with what you wanna, how you wanna be perceived. It's true that some fragrances, generally don't work with certain people mixing because it doesn't really match who they are. And that's true, but at the same time, I think fragrances is something that you can actually use in order to get across the perception that you're trying to get across. So if you want to be more masculine, if you will, then, by all means, be more masculine with your fragrance, your demeanor, and everything that you want to go with. However, if you're not looking to actually be masculine with your fragrances, then, by all means, you don't have to wear anything masculine. It really just depends on what you want to do. And fragrance is really just, I guess you could say, an engine that helps towards that goal. All right? Next question comes from Legume de Trini. What moisturizer brand do you recommend to make your fragrance last longer, and how do you go on applying the moisturizer to your skin? Now, I have a separate video on this, on how to apply colognes, but I'll just give you the really quick short version. The really quick short version is I use Cetaphil, I think is the name. Cetaphil as the lotion brand, which is basically a non-fragrance. It's got no, additives in it that, add to the smell or add to any, irritants or anything like that, and it's just very base and generic, and it does the job basically. It moisturizes your skin, and that's all basically. So that's the brand that's my go-to brand for clear up basically. Cetaphil. Next, from Lupon Lines. If you could only save 3 of your fragrances from a fire or something destroying them, what would they be? Would rarity, exclusivity, price, or the actual scent come into play? You could always buy more after the fire as well. I like those clarifications just to make this question a little bit more clear. If that was the case, then it would have to go. I would go with rarity and price to be the first 2. So I'd probably jump for my creeds that are up there. If there's 3 fragrances, it's probably the 3 flacons that I own of Creed, just because they're easily the most expensive and hardest to replace of the bunch. That would be my guiding factor for it. Next comes from Xavier R. Have you considered any throwback reviews on your channel where you review fragrances that you like from the 70s or 80s? I recommend first reviewing Azzaro Pour Homme, nice classy barbershop scent. Alright, so yes, I have, but that's more in the scheme of things. My goal, it's a lofty goal, is to review every single fragrance that is out there. That's part of the reason why I've shortened my review length, at least, just because I've got so many to get through. I want to go through, I want to smell as much and make my channel basically a library of fragrances. So that means that I'm going to eventually get to Azzaro Pour Homme. I just haven't got to it yet. As far as redoing fragrances reviews that I've done already, I don't really have much interest in that, just because it's just not something that interests me. Generally speaking, my taste is going to slightly change, and so those reviews that you might see me with a slightly different take of that particular fragrance and a slightly different like, and it's just kind of like a never-ending process because my taste is constantly changing. So for that, that's why I kind of make it my own point to try and give you some hard facts of what I'm smelling rather than most of what I feel about the fragrance, because what I feel is going to change basically. Alright, that's pretty much it. Next comes from BW4LL. What is the weirdest fragrance you own, and how often and when do you wear it? That honor may have to go to Musc Ravageur. It's weird, but I love it. I constantly say I love Musc Ravageur. It's one that I personally love, but it's weird. There are people out there who absolutely can't stand it, and there are people that I've met when I'm wearing it that absolutely can't stand it. But you know what? I like it a lot. It's weird. I generally wear it maybe 3 times a year. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Musc Ravageur, easily. Next question. Man, it cut off. Sorry, I have a sheet of paper here with all of the questions printed out, and it cut off this guy's name. He's one of the regular subscribers too, so I apologize in advance. Don't have your name. What would be your ideal number of bottles? If you had to restrict yourself or build the ideal collection, do you think there is a such thing? 10 bottles? 20 bottles? More? So my answer for this, I don't think that there is an ideal bottle length. I think your ideal bottle amount really depends on the person themselves, basically. What are you most comfortable with? What do you think is for you is going to cover all your bases? Now, overall, I think that every guy's got to have at least enough fragrances to cover, the base generics of your night out fragrance, your casual day fragrance, and maybe, a cold and warm weather version of each, depending on where you live. But I think at the very least, each guy's at least got to have 2 fragrances, basically, to kind of cycle through. Now, obviously, that's extended out. If I was gun to my head, I really like. There's another reviewer called Lupe Fiasco. I'm thinking about the rapper Lupe Fiasco, but Lupe is his name, and he's got a perfect 30, I think, or a perfect 20, or something like that. Perfect 30, maybe perfect 40, something along those lines, basically. And I really do like that because it kind of, narrows it down to a certain amount, and that's pretty much about the amount that you can get away with wearing almost for the rest of your life. It's like 40 fragrances, 30 or 40 fragrances. So I think that is a really nice number to have for most individuals, but that's my thoughts. It depends on the person. Next comes from Twin Turbo. I would truly be thankful and would really enjoy watching a review from you on Dior's Fahrenheit Absolute. Other than that, much love. Okay. Yes, so that review, it's added basically to my list. I've got a long list of fragrances, and that definitely is on that list. Next comes Cuervo ARG, Dior Intense versus Aventus, Sauvage versus Bleu de Chanel, And La Nuit de l'Homme versus Tuscan Leather. Ooh, and there goes 10 minutes. Sorry about that. I will continue on with the, I'm going to go ahead and mark my place. I will continue on with the Q&A in subsequent videos. Basically, I'm just going to keep going. I've actually cut it off on from there. Alright, so hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I've answered a couple of questions, and I will continue answering them going forward. I may actually have to up the next video to 15 minutes. I only got through like a page and a half, I think. Yeah, and I've got a lot of questions to get through. Alright, so yeah, you'll see. I'm coming out with some more, and hopefully I can be a little bit more succinct in my answers, but let me know what your thoughts are on it. Let me know if I need to be more succinct, or if I'm doing fine like I am, or explaining too much, whatever the case may be. Alright, thanks guys, take care of yourselves, and you guys have a great day.